I work in the Department of Human Genetics. We don't do an awful lot of classroom instruction. We do teach the medical students and the graduate students in the classroom environment. But what we strive to do is to do transformative teaching there, where we work one-on-one with individual students, undergraduates, graduate students, and postdocs. We spend a lot of time in the labs. You might call us lab geeks. We don't get out that often. And when we do get out, they try to keep us away from microphones. So we'll have to see how this goes. And also, I didn't realize that I would be speaking first or following Mike Young. So it was an interesting start. I've had a very favorable experience in education in general. I went to a very rural high school in Vermont where there were only 10 people in my class that went on to college. So we got a lot of attention from our high school teachers. I then took my bachelor's degree in chemistry from the University of Vermont, where there were only 18 students in my major. I then took a PhD from Yale University in human genetics, where there were only 4 students in my class. I then was able to go down to Texas and work with 2 Nobel laureates in their lab, and that was a very great experience with a lot of transformative events and so forth. I then came here as a professor in human genetics and got my MBA while I was here. So I've had a long history in education, and I've had a lot of transformative experiences along the way. I want to tell you about a transformative experience I had today that did not involve an excellent classroom instructor. This is not the general case with regard to my education. I've had exceptional classroom instructors, but this individual was not one of them. I was interested in getting a PChem degree because I knew if I got a PChem degree that I could get into any graduate school that I wanted. So when I went to my undergraduate instructor for physical chemistry, I was very disappointed to hear his first lecture. Went into the lecture, he walked in, handed out the syllabus, went to the left-hand chalkboard and started deriving proofs. Just one equation after another, moved to the center, moved to the right, deriving equations the whole time he went. He then went back to the left board, erased his original work, and started over again, went through the boards again, not saying anything or during the whole lecture. This went on for 3 or 4 lectures until we decided we had to ask a question. So somehow I was elected to do that by my classmates. And so at one point I thought I had a good question, and I asked the question, and he turned around, and he looked at me, and he said, "That's intuitively obvious to the casual observer." So not a particularly helpful answer at that point. So he finished his lecture and left the room. And we sat around for a few minutes and we said, well, we really want to get this PChem GRE done so that we can get into graduate school. What should we do? And we thought about it for a little while and we said, well, we got to come up with a better question. That's the only thing we can do about this. So we went to, started going to the chemistry library, a group of 5 or 8 of us. And we sat in the chemistry library and we started pulling out the books and so forth and reading through them, and we were writing, transcribing these old German texts into our own notebooks, and then we'd take our notebooks and we'd talk about them at the end, and we started assigning specific articles to specific individuals and so forth. And we were doing that. We did that for days, hours every day, day after day, and we came to the same conclusion that we didn't have a good question. So thinking about what to do, one day we were in there working, and Professor Welton, this guy, walked in, and he dropped a stack of photocopy cards on our desk and 2 boxes of highlighters, one green, one yellow. And all he said was, make notations in the margins. And so we started photocopying the articles that we were studying. We carry them around with us all day, take notes in the margins. Then we get together at night and we talk about them. And we did that for a while. Unfortunately, Professor Welton never got better in his lecture style. He just kept going on the same way he did the whole time. But I was starting to learn physical chemistry. And so that's how I learned PChem from a very poor instructor. About 12 years ago, I went back to the University of Vermont and gave a lecture in human genetics. And Professor Welton was in the audience. He didn't come up and say hi or anything at any time, but he did acknowledge that I had gotten through his work. In fairness, after that PChem class was over, he invited us to do a reading with him before we took our PChem graduate exam. He helped me get a position in a lab at the biochemistry department where I was able to do some nice work in the biochemistry department. He was a very supportive professor. When I was giving my history, academic history, you may have noticed some unusual phrasing in the way that I said things. I said I took my bachelor's degree from the University of Vermont, and that's actively what I did. This is not an unusual phrasing, taking your degree. It's actually the literal translation in a lot of other countries. A lot of other countries, England and Germany and Asian countries, will say, I took my education at this university. They don't say, I took my degree at a university. You can, order a degree online if you want a degree. You need to take your education from the university. When I went back to the University of Vermont, I went to the University of Vermont to get a cup of coffee and give a lecture. I didn't go to the University of Vermont for a degree. So I guess my point is that you should actively seek opportunities to take your education from the university. This transformative experience that I had with Dr. Welton, I really learned quite a few things. In addition to learning to take my education, I learned that the classroom is not the only place to get an education and often not the best place to get an education at the university. And I learned to recognize resources on campus, including graduate students, postdocs, as well as instructors and staff that can help you take your education. Thank you.